Welcome to Disability Empowerment Now, Season 3. I'm your host, Keith Mafidikinsini. Today I'm talking to Christina Trivigno, who is the Director of Digital Strategy for TDF. Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We've been talking for a while, and I'm a big user of TDF. Uh,
I love
but
it.
for those who are not native to New York or know what TDF stands for, please start there and tell us what TDF's original name was.
Sure, absolutely. So TDF stands for Theater Development Fund, although we tend to go just by TDF these days. And TDF is a nonprofit working in New York City that endeavors to break down barriers to attendance at the theater and also in music and dance venues. And we do that in a variety of ways. Some of those barriers are things like economic access. So we want to make theaters more affordable for people. But we also have a wide range of accessibility offerings at TDF. We do open caption performances, we do audio described performances, we do autism friendly performances. We also have programs that take students to the theater and veterans. We really want theater to feel like a place that everyone can go to, that everyone belongs at the theater.
Everyone certainly belongs at the theater, particularly in this day and age. We all need to be at the theater more often than not. How much theater do you see through TDF, and is it a part of your job or just one of the fantastic perks you
It
get
is.
through
It
your
is a
job?
perk of my job that it helps me to, especially on social media, to assist people in deciding what show is right for them, that I know what's playing and that I get to see things. So um, sometimes I go because we're having a performance and I just get to attend as well. So I can show up at an autism friendly performance and just watch from the back of the theater. But sometimes I'll purchase tickets if I feel like it's a show that I need to see that, um, I don't have another way to see it through one of our programs. But yes, it is a lovely perk of the job. One of my favorite perks of the job, I would say, is that I get to see a lot of theater.
So I joined TDF last year because my father was also a member. I'm actually a paying member. I haven't declared my disability to
Mhm.
TDF yet. Uh, but I wanted to help the organization out financially anyway. And so I was in New York in January because I love the cold. Spoiler alert, that's
And as I
not
recall, you
true.
saw many things that day,
Yes,
that
yes.
trip, I should say.
Yeah, no, I started and finished actually my New York theater and opera run with the marvelous and amazing How to Dance in
Ah,
Idaho.
yes, I saw that show. I loved it.
I actually saw it 3 times, and the
Amazing.
second time was the most special because what TDF does when you buy a ticket, of course, you know, but for those who don't know, when you buy a ticket from TDF, you don't get assigned a seat until the day of or even the hour before the performance. You have to
Yes,
pick.
in a regular TDF membership like you have, that is true. We don't assign the seats, the theater does.
Wait, okay, you said something I'm not aware of. So, so I have a regular TDF membership. I
Mhm.
paid and then I found out about your accessibility program that would allow me a free TDF membership as long as I had a documented disability, which I
Yes.
do, and
Mhm.
getting the paperwork is not a problem for that at all. With a accessibility membership, what happens in terms of ticket, of seating placement compared
Sure.
to a
I mean,
regular?
it depends on what kind of accessibility you declare with us, what would happen. So if you tell us that you have a mobility disability, then we work with the theater to get you the appropriate seat for your mobility needs. If you need a transfer seat or if you need a seat to be taken out, then we make that happen. If you're saying that you're coming for an open captioning event, then we have a certain section of the theater that we reserve that are near the caption board so that we seat you in that area. So it really does depend on the disability and what kind of accessibility service we are assisting you with. When we do autism-friendly performances, we very often, or I should say exclusively, we buy the whole theater. And then we ask people when they sign up if they would have a problem with sitting in the mezzanine, if they need to be downstairs because of a wheelchair or a mobility device or difficulty walking or even, you know, uh, a height concern, depth perception concern, other issues that might make it uncomfortable for them to sit in the mezzanine. But we assign people their seats in those cases based on what you tell us about what you need to experience the theater.
So I'm actually gonna be back in New York next month with a friend who has more mobility issues uh, than I do, and that's not at all a problem. But that is something I would like to when I buy tickets because it may not be the ticket holder who has the mobility issue or the sensory issue or whatever the issue uh, may
Yeah.
be. It may be the person or persons they're taking with them to the theater. But before we get uh, into the rest of the interview, let me go back to the second out of 3 times I was able to see how to dance in Idaho, all through TDF. And one that second performance was special because you had me the aisle seat, uh, yeah, the aisle seat of row G, and one of the co-composers of the soundtrack, he had friends in the row behind me.
Oh, wonderful.
And so, and I overheard their conversation. And so after he was done, his name is Jacob. I can't pronounce his last name. I can't even pronounce my lad's name if it wasn't attached to me. And I told him about the podcast and my love for theater, and the only reason that I will be able to interview any cast member at from How to Dance in Idaho at the
Ohio.
end of this. Yeah, wow. Yeah, sorry. How to Dance in Ohio on the in the season finale of season 3 of this podcast is because TDF randomly placed me at in the right seat at the right time at the right performance.
That sounds
So
like fate.
yes, so again, I owe a big debt of gratitude, but in order to elaborate, I not only saw How to Dance in Ohio 3 times, I also saw Back to the Future 4 times because
That is a visually
musicals
stunning show. The
musicals are my
magic.
love language. I saw A Beautiful Noise, the Neil Diamond musical, and then I went to the Met Opera 3 times
Oh,
and
wow.
saw La Boheme, Nabaku, and Madame Butterfly. Every
Amazing.
seat I got through TDF, which are randomly chosen at that performance, I have never gotten a bad seat through my membership with TDF. So thank
Love
you.
to hear that.
So how did you become involved with TDF, and how many years have you worked for
Oh,
TDF?
wow. Let's see. I've been at TDF a little over 10 years now. Um, so I used to work at a digital marketing firm that worked in theater. I was a part-time employee there. And when I was working there, they had a transition of their team and new management came in and there was a lot of upheaval. And so I started looking for a new job, and sometimes the theater industry can be sort of a small industry, even though we do so much stuff.
You don't say.
Everybody knows everybody. So I'd had an internship where I was working at Manhattan Theater Club. So the people at TDF used to work at Manhattan Theater Club. So they had people who they could talk to that they trusted, that they knew that that was a good internship program. They talked to the people that I used to work for at the marketing firm. And I was hired at the time as the social media manager. So I have had quite a number of title changes over the years at my time at TDF. Certainly when I started working at TDF, um, doing social media, I was trying to make our social media accessible. Now my job being more broadly digital, I focus on making our websites accessible. I want them to work for people who use, keyboard access to get around a website or using voice controls. We have a consultant that we use named Len, who's wonderful. To help us test the websites, because of course accessibility and digital kind of are never done. Anytime someone releases, say, a new browser, a new OS or something, there's always a new thing to check or keep up on. But it's a great place to work. It's a lot of fun. I'm so happy that I landed here. And I didn't say, and you probably can't tell because you can only see me from, my neckline up, but I am also a wheelchair user, so I am disabled myself. And I bring that to my job too, to help them um, see things from a different perspective sometimes, even if it's not necessarily my purview, or my responsibility, I should say. I try and breathe accessibility into all of the areas that we do.
You ever get tired of going to theater or musicals or Broadway in general?
I would say that I had a little bit of an existential crisis coming out of the pandemic. Or pandemic's not necessarily over, I shouldn't say coming out of it, but coming out of the restrictions, a fear of going back to the theater. And it's kind of like a habit or a muscle, right? You have to like cater to it and nurture it. So I got out of the habit of going to the theater and I had a fear of going back. Now I'm very happy that I'm comfortable going again. But it was definitely something I had to nurture back to its pre-pandemic levels. And I think we're finding that in audiences that there are definitely people who either they found new habits that they like, other things that they found that bring them joy during the pandemic, and they're doing more of that and they're going less to the theater. And then there are people who are back at it, there's a spectrum there, and there's a spectrum of comfortableness with going to the theater. Some of the nonprofit theater companies had masking days longer than some of the for-profit companies. Not all of the theaters had the same thing. So some of the subscription houses like Roundabout would have days of the week where everyone had to wear a mask if you wanted to be at that performance, even when restrictions didn't say that that was necessary. They kept it going for a while. But, some people are still uncomfortable with coming to the theater and some people are gung ho about it. It's a wide spectrum of experiences that people have and concerns that they have. If you're immunocompromised, then it is totally valid that you are scared to go outside and encounter other people who are maybe not taking it as seriously as you are.
So TDF's offerings changes or gets updated or added to every day, which brings to mind that old Forrest Gump quote. Life is like a box of cherries. You never know what
You never
you're
know what you're gonna
going to
get.
get. Uh, how much control or not control, foresight or foreknowledge does TDF have? Or is it a surprise or maybe not surprise, but
It can be a very fast process. It can be that the theater writes to us in the morning and the show is on sale a couple of hours later. We don't know. I mean, it isn't always the same for all of the shows, but sometimes, I mean, we also operate the TKTS booth, which is for day of performances. So that is a very fast moving list of shows. And, even in the middle of the day, we could run out of tickets and then the theater gives us another allotment or calls us a few hours after they open the box office and decides to put their show on sale later in the day than in the morning. It can be fast moving and it can be a surprise to us as well.
yeah, there there are big Broadway shows. Most notably, or the one that I know the most, Hades Town, on there quite regularly. But there are also shows not on there. Moulin Rouge, The Lion King, although I think I've seen that go off and on TDF as well. The Great Gatsby when it gets out of previews, The Notebook, when it gets out of
Yeah.
previews, and
It's
then
a
you
double-edged
have
sword, right? I mean, we love it when a theater is
yeah,
selling well and doesn't need uh to offer our services to fill their house, because of course we want the industry to be well and
wait,
financially stable, but
wait,
also
hold
we
on,
want to make it accessible. So
hold
there
on.
are shows that don't need us yet.
Did you just say that TDF likes not being of use to
I would no,
shows?
I don't mean that we don't want to be of use. Of course we want to be of use, but it says nice things for the health of a show if they're able to sell out without discounting, of course.
I
But
mean,
we
you,
want the theaters to say that offering discounts is also good for the industry.
yeah, I mean, you also have opera on there. You also have music by
Yes.
candlelight in churches.
Dance,
You
yes.
also have Shakespeare on there. You have drunken Shakespeare. You literally have a daily changing smorgasbord of every type of theater offering, both Broadway, off Broadway,
Yes.
off Broadway, and they're not always just in Manhattan. Some are in the
No,
Bronx,
yes,
some are
we have
in
things outside of the
Queens,
city,
and
and sometimes you can find the thing that's going to be the next big hit before it's
yes,
gone to Broadway. If you go see a smaller show, see an off-Broadway show, maybe a year from now it'll be the big hit that's hard to get a ticket to.
yeah,
You never
but
know.
I want to go back to something just because a show, a big show like Hades Town, utilizes TDF, or that any show would utilize TDF, doesn't necessarily mean the show is struggling.
Oh
It's
no, absolutely
more
not.
about the accessibility reach that the show is trying to pull in
No,
people of
theater needs to have a diverse
diversity.
audience to
Yeah,
survive.
yes. And so, are you native to New York? Oh,
Yeah, I am. I'm born and raised. I was born in Queens. I live in Manhattan now, but I've been in New York my whole life.
yeah, I was born in Manhattan and I can't really escape it, even though I've
The greatest city in the world, right?
yeah, I've tried in vain, and then I keep getting shot back to there, which isn't a bad thing at all. I know you can't talk about much of features or shows that aren't on the release docket yet. And that's totally understandable. But as a employee of TDF, if you could project what you as a disabled theater goer would like to see TDF do in, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years, that old adage question, to become even more accessible, to broaden their reach to every demographic even more than they already do, which is substantial. But we can always improve accessibility,
Of course.
particularly in the entertainment industry, and particularly on a mammoth stage that is Broadway and even the Met Opera. I mean, just to pause there, I've gotten fantastic seats for a third of the price through TDF. So you literally never know what you're going to get through TDF. But back to the question, how do how do we enhance accessibility through TDF?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I run is a website called TheatreAccess.NYC, which lists not only the accessibility performances that TDF is arranging, but also if another vendor is offering ASL captions or sensory friendly performances or any kind of accessibility service, we list it on TheatreAccess.NYC. And I encourage feedback on that website because its entire point is to make theater more accessible and make the theater buying process more accessible. And some of the feedback we've gotten there is that people want more sort of clear understanding of the layout of the theater. So what do you expect when you go in? Like, where are the bathrooms? Where are the exits? So people can make a better decision about their ticket buying choices. Do they want to be near an exit row? Do they want to be somewhere where they can have their service animal? Do they want to be near the bathroom because they know they're going to need to get up frequently? So I think making it easier to know the layouts of the interior spaces that we're inhabiting is going to be something I'm really interested in exploring and how we can make that happen. And also people want to know more about the content of the shows. If there's gunshots, if there's smoke, if there's a topic that might be upsetting to people. And that is an area of access as well. You may not want to go to a show if it's going to remind you of something traumatic in your life, or if you can't handle the smoky atmosphere that they're creating, or whatever sensory issues you might be dealing with. I think we can do a lot more of what we already do. And I don't want that to sound like a cop out, but we do something like 4 or 5 autism friendly performances a year, generally as a season. And we have great partners that come back to us every year and want to do it, like Lion King, Aladdin. The Disney shows are great. And we definitely have a youthful audience in that program. So kid friendly shows are great to go with. But we have done adult content in that program as well. I'd like to see us do more of that. And I'd like us to expand the accessibility program to have more options than it has now. I mean, we do have lots of accessibility services that we offer, but we can do more to reach more people and get more people signed up for those programs so that they are being used. And the more that they're used, the more contracts we can do, the more performances. It's kind of a circle, right? You need the people to sell the shows, and you need the shows to sell the people. But yeah, I think I would love to see us do relaxed performances in addition to autism friendly performances, because there is a range there of support needs. Our autism friendly performances have a wide variety of volunteers. We have quiet areas, we have activity areas, we have specialists at the theater, and there are probably people who don't need quite so much support, but still want a different experience than a regular performance. Or maybe they just want a more sympathetic audience around them who isn't going to look at them strangely, because I've certainly been looked at strangely at the theater myself, and I know what that's like. I'm excited to, we actually have a new executive director, so we are having conversations about things that we want to do differently under new leadership. So who knows? Who knows where that's going to go? I threw a lot at you.
Yeah, yeah. And now I'm like trying to navigate like the TDF website. If I could spend all my money to keep you guys afloat in New York, I would. Because you offered such a fantastic range of programming. I mean, there are shows that you would not expect to be on there necessarily that are on there, and it says a lot about a organization that their accessibility offerings and the shows are as diverse as the membership, both paying and also free. I mean, signing up, why I went the regular paid route is because even though I knew I had a permanent disability, the the page about accessibility I found after I signed up, and I was like, whoops. But
Well, we do have a membership type. We
yeah,
call it internally dual membership, where you can have both listed with us an accessibility need, and we will offer you those performances that fit your accessibility need. But then within the system, you can toggle over to the performances that do not have a special service offered by us, that are just in the
yeah,
membership listings for everyone. So, there are people who like captions, but sometimes the
yeah,
handheld Gala Pro is fine. And we don't want to tell them not to go to those performances. If they want to go to both our open caption performances and have the handheld device at other performances, you are free to do that.
yeah. Like I've never mind sitting in the mezzanine or the balcony. But I must say, it's very, very nice to sit in the orchestra, even the real orchestra, particularly at the Metropolitan Opera. Every time I was there, it was like I saw La Boheme on a Monday. I saw Nabucco on Wednesday of that week. And then I saw Madame Butterfly on Thursday. I might as well have lived at the Metropolitan Opera for that week. And it was spectacular because those were all shows I wanted to see, but the price point of the opera would have quite necessarily pushed me out of doing that. But and like but the lottery, and this is where I like the regular membership of never knowing what seat I'm going to get
And as
because
a
it's
wheelchair user, I'm
yeah,
super excited to know when there's a theater now that has an elevator and I can
yeah,
sit in the mezzanine, because that's an experience I didn't have until I was, I don't know, a teenager.
yeah. And I mean, one of the things that other regular ticket uh, selling platforms do, and even theaters, which I hope that TDF finds a way to implement. Uh, sometime is that you get a a viewing of where the seat actually is. And this would be more for the accessibility side than the regular side. But I remember going home from the opera every time, logging on and seeing the price point of the ticket, which boggled my mind, and also seeing where exactly it was in relation to the stage, and particularly when you're seeing the opera, but every musical in general, that's very important regardless of your accessibility needs. Because most of the accessible seats for people in wheelchairs, or people on crutches, or people who use canes or other mobility aids are in the back of the theater. And you would think that those seats wouldn't always be good for viewing purposes. But more often than not, and this is where The Lion King really shines, those seats are actually very breathtaking, to be honest. And I'm just illustrating that point by just looking at the theater website on their web page and seeing the viewpoint from the seats there, and then looking up in the mezzanine and seeing the view from
Yeah,
there. And so that would be certainly one accessibility, but really a regular feature that I would like and hope that TDF finds a way to implement, certainly for musicals. I mean, with candlelight music, it's hard, if not impossible, to do that because they're often in churches or cathedrals or synagogues, which are all great uh, performance spaces to hear
sure.
that kind of music. But for musicals in opera, that is a necessary feature that should be standard in the ticketing option of hopefully every website that would
Yeah, like I said,
help
that sort of
provide.
understanding of what the interior of the theater is one of the biggest feedback pieces we get, is that people want to know what what does it look like inside? How big is that ramp even?
Yeah,
Is there a bathroom I can use? Is the bathroom, and there are unfortunate things about these buildings being very old and being landmark that sometimes renovations can be problematic. Um, for them to get approval to renovate. If they are landmark status, they're not allowed to change, I think, their facade. And I'm not a real estate expert there, but I know that there are challenges if spaces want to become more accessible,
yeah,
if they don't have, say, a wheelchair accessible bathroom in their theater already. So there is definitely mystery for some people around what the insides of these spaces look like. And I totally agree that that'd be That is one of the things I am certainly excited about seeing in the future is more transparency about what these spaces look like inside.
So, if there are any advocates, theater goers or non theater goers, and I know there are people who exist who don't like or don't understand musicals as hard as that is for
I
a
mean, that is a challenge for TDF is that, we posit that, the theater is for everyone, but
yeah,
an important part of that is making their first theater going experience good.
yeah,
Because if they go to the theater, we get them to go to or someone else gets them to go.
yeah,
Their friend takes them to the theater
yeah,
and they can't get to their seat, or the usher's rude to them, or parking was $1 million, or whatever. Or the play just wasn't for them. It was like the wrong topic, or they were tired. If that first theater experience isn't good, it's so much harder to get them to go the second time. You have to catch them when their mind is open and they're eager to go the first time.
so there's always a audio or video glitch. Not always, but
That's okay.
sometimes.
Did you catch what I
That's
said though when you
yes,
turned the camera off?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just on my end, and certainly not on your end. But that's a very important point because making the first or second performance of a theater goer is as accessible as you can will motivate them, hopefully, to keep coming back. Uh, I'm I like to say that my parents bathed me in Broadway, and
I like that.
yeah, yeah, they took me to see the Phantom of the Opera first.
That is the first
Lamers,
show I remember seeing. That is not the first show I saw, but that is the first show I have a memory of seeing.
really, what was the first one you saw?
So my
As you
parents
don't
would tell
remember.
this story of taking me to a Renaissance fair and taking me to see some Shakespearean shortened recreation at the Renaissance fair, and that my jaw was just on the floor the whole time in awe of what was happening. But I do remember my mother taking me to Phantom of the Opera when I was slightly older, and I'm still a kid. I was 8, I think, 7 or 8. Um, and I remember that show. I remember the chandelier. I remember, it being opulent and uh, overwhelming. But my
Oh,
parents
yeah.
loved to tell the Renaissance Fair story as the day they knew I was going to love theater.
Yeah, I mean, the Phantom, Lamers, and Cats, probably not in that order, although Phantom was definitely first, or it was the first musical soundtrack that I got. I got the highlights of the original soundtrack. And that started a collection habit that I still have to this day and probably always will have until I leave this planet. But it's like
I just
it
had to get
comes,
rid of a lot of playbills because I've been collecting them for years.
oh
But
yeah,
I gave them
Yeah.
to Applause Shop, and some of the benefits from those sales will go towards TDF. So hopefully they find nice new homes.
So I like the wrong question to ask. First question to ask, we'll get to that one in a second. If there are any advocates who are just starting out, hopefully they're theater goers like us, they may not be, but want to pursue advocacy in a professional capacity, or maybe even a semi capacity. As someone who works in the industry of making a cornerstone of what makes New York City, New York City more accessible, what would be some action steps that you would recommend to the aspiring advocates?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are lots of nonprofits that could definitely use some volunteers and some more staff that are always hiring. And I think there are lots of good things that the mayor's office for people with disabilities is doing in New York City, both to get people hired and to get people involved. Um, I mean, my journey into this, I started very young doing what I would consider advocacy work in my high school. Um, I was in a support group for people with disabilities in my high school, and we turned that actually junior high school, and we turned that into a theater troupe. And through that theater troupe, we performed at Lincoln Center, and we made plays based on our disability and performed them. And we did radio shows, and we did I performed at Lincoln Center. That was like the highlight of my acting career at like 14 or something. Maybe even younger. There's a newspaper article about it somewhere in the world. um, but you know, the sooner that you start speaking your truth and advocating for yourself, the more those opportunities come your way, I think.
And so, just to jump in on that, when I was 25 or 26, I got to perform with a choir at the Santa Fe Opera. We sang
Amazing.
November, sorry, Beethoven's Ninth. And yeah, so that's my highlight so far. Uh, but I I like to think that this podcast and now a full-fledged video cast reaches both people with disabilities and those who have yet to discover and embrace their own disability. But I'm not naive to think that each group takes away the same things from the episodes. So, as my guest, what do you hope that people with disabilities take away from this episode? And what do you hope that people who have yet to discover and embrace their own disabilities take away from this episode?
Well, I certainly hope that people with disabilities take away that there is a service that can help them go to the theater, and that theater is a place for them, whether that is on stage or backstage or in the audience. There are a wide variety of ways that we want you to participate in theater, and TDF doesn't directly help people onto the stage in terms of becoming a performer. That's not a program that we offer, but there is a lot more representation of disability on theater stages these days than there were certainly when I was a kid. Uh, you know, so that's a wonderful improvement I'm so happy to be here for in my lifetime. And for someone who doesn't have a disability, I think it is an often rallying cry of the disability community that is not about whether or not you have a disability, but about when you will have a disability. Just as one ages, you may find yourself losing your sight, losing your hearing, losing your ability to climb stairs. I'm certainly not hoping that for anybody, but it is a common occurrence as people age that there is something that you will struggle with. And I hope that you have empathy for people who are going through it now, and that you know that there are resources that can help you in the future should you need them.
Yeah, it's important to point out that the disability community is the only minority that anyone can join at any time for any length of time, be that short term, long term, or lifetime. I don't know what it is like to live without disabilities. I will never know that. But
Me as well. I have
yeah,
been a wheelchair user for life.
yeah. And so, wrapping up, is there anything else you want people to know about all the great work that TDF is doing to promote accessibility on Broadway and off Broadway that's as important as on Broadway, and just getting people back to seeing live theater and live music again.
I would encourage everyone to come to our websites, come to tdf.org, come to Theater Access NYC. If you go to Theater Access NYC and you hit that contact button, you're going to get me. And I very much want to help you go to the theater. So please tell me what you need. Tell your friends that there's this program that can help you go to the theater. Please invite your friends to the theater. And if there's something I can do to make the experience better for you, you have an advocate at TDF that wants to make it more accessible for all people with disabilities.
And a regular membership is $40 a year annually, but if you have paperwork regarding a disability or other qualifications, you can join the accessibility program for free. Is that right?
Yes, the accessibility program does not have a membership fee at this time, so you don't have to pay to sign up for it. You just have to give us some proof of your accessibility needs, and then we will help you see theater in conditions that are accessible to you, whether that's an orchestra sheet or a captioned performance. We have a wide variety of accessibility services, like I said, audio description, autism-friendly performances. I'm probably forgetting some because I'm rambling a little bit, but we offer a wide variety of accessibility services at performances, and you can join that program. And if you are also comfortable going to a standard performance without assistance from us in any kind of added service, we have the ability for you to join both programs. And then you can pay a membership fee and access a larger number of shows with, some of them offer things like Gala Pro devices where you can have those captions in hand if you need them. There's a lot to learn on TDF. We do a lot of things. We serve a lot of people. Students, again, I mentioned earlier, veterans. We have community programs. So come check us out and see what we offer. I mean, there's a whole swath of things we do I didn't even mention. I mean, we do things for arts makers. We have the costume collection, for example. You can come rent costumes from us at affordable prices that are based on whether or not you're a nonprofit or a for-profit, how long your run is, all kind, how many costumes you need. There's a whole metric on the cost there. But yeah, we also train people to do things. So if you are a theater company that needs to know how to do captions, we can help you make that happen too.
Christina, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope you will come back and tell us more about all the exciting things that TDF continues to do for our great city, but really our great state of New York, because you do branch out into other fields or boroughs of uh, the city, and that's in, important as well. It's
Oh,
that
absolutely. If
you
you live in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and you want to see something that is nearby, you can find that too. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
thank you, and if I may be of any other assistance, please let me know. You and TDF will always have a platform with me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.